in March 2025, I got a message from a woman that I'll call Sarah. Sarah was 52, she had stage 4 breast cancer, and she had been through everything. Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and immunotherapy. Her oncologist, one of the best in Texas, sat her down and told her those words that no one should ever hear. We've exhausted all treatment options. Sarah wasn't ready to give up, so I founded my company called NxtCure, and she uploaded her medical records to our AI platform. 15 minutes later, our algorithm identified 12 active clinical trials alone. Not 12 in the country, but about 12 that were 75 miles away from her. And one of them was at the same hospital where her oncologist worked. Her doctor, board certified, 20 years of experience, genuinely caring, had never heard of them. Sarah enrolled in a clinical trial 3 weeks later, and to this day, she's getting better. So here's the part that keeps me up at night. Sarah isn't lucky. She's just one of the 3% that finds their way into a clinical trial. 97% never even know they exist. Now, I'm a cancer researcher, and I'm going to tell you something that sounds impossible. We're not losing the war to cancer because of bad science. We're losing it because of bad matchmaking. Right now, there's over 10,000 clinical trials in the United States alone. Groundbreaking immunotherapies, targeted drugs, gene therapies that didn't exist 5 years ago. Many of these sophisticated treatments are developed by some of the brightest minds in science, backed by billions of research funding and rigorously designed to save lives. When we analyzed our trial data across 10,000 trials, we found that 97% of eligible patients didn't even know these trials existed. Just think about that for a second. You have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, you're told that there's no other options left, and somewhere, maybe at a hospital, you see a window. There's a clinical trial specifically designed for you, for your genetic markers, your previous treatments, your type of cancer, but you'll never know about it. This is because the system has no search functions. So why doesn't your doctor tell you about these clinical trials? That's because they don't know either. Most of these doctors are mainly familiar with the clinical trials happening at their own research institution. So why doesn't your doctor tell you about these trials? That's because they don't know either. When we surveyed oncology for our research, we found something stunning. The average oncologist is aware of less than 10% of the clinical trials that their patient may qualify for. And this is not because they're bad doctors, but it's because the system makes it nearly impossible to stay informed. So here's how clinical trials get publicized today. They're registered on something called clinicaltrials.gov, which is a government database of over 4,500,000 studies and a search interface from 2003. The next thing is that they're announced at a medical conference that happens once a year. They then get published in medical journals that doctors are often too busy to read and see and then recommend to their patients. And fourthly, they may get mentioned in a pharmaceutical sales pitch, but this is often not the right system. Now imagine you're an oncologist. You see 30 patients a day, you're drowning in paperwork and insurance pre-authorizations, you're trying to keep up with new research in lung cancer, breast cancer, leukemia, melanoma. Do you have time to search through 450,000 clinical trial listings to see if trial NC50597173 might be perfect for your patient? No, you don't. Nobody does. So here's what actually happens. Doctors recommend trials that they happen to know about, usually big phase 3 trials at major cancer centers that have big marketing budgets. And they are great trials, but maybe less than 2% of them are actually what's available. The other 98% of trials, they sit on clinicaltrials.gov, they desperately seek patients, while patients sit in oncology offices desperately seeking treatment options. And nobody connects them. The National Cancer Institute estimates that if we could match patients to the right clinical trials, we could actually accelerate cancer development by about 30 to 40%. That's not faster approval, but that's saving tens of thousands of lives per year. So this past year, we started building something amazing. And that was called NxtCure. We asked a simple question. What if finding a clinical trial was as easy as finding a restaurant on Yelp? So what do you type in? Our algorithm shows you matches. You pick one and done. So we built that. Our AI platform algorithms over 10,000 clinical trials across 10 major hospital systems. When a patient uploads their medical record, our algorithm analyzes cancer type, stage, previous treatment, health status, as well as geographic location. We then match them into a trial with over 95% accuracy. That same process that takes an oncologist hours to do and hours of searching, our system does it in about 90 seconds. And so here's the key difference. We don't just match trials to patients, but we match patients to trials. And so let me explain what that means. So right now, clinical trials are like restaurants with no signs. You may know that they exist. Our system flips that. We actively alert the patient. The patient will get an alert, something like, hey, there's a trial 15 miles from you that you qualify for. Now you've just connected a patient with trials that they can actually have found. And the data is remarkable. Patients using our platform find trials 50 times faster than manual searching. They find an average of 7 trials compared to 1 to 3 to the standard traditional methods. And geographic barriers drop dramatically. Turns out that most patients have multiple qualifying trials within driving distances. And so going back to Sarah's story, the reason it's so special is because she actually found a trial. But it shouldn't be this special. This should be automatic. But I think there's a bigger system to fix here. If we actually want to solve this problem, there's really 3 lessons we should take away from this. Number 1 is that there should be mandatory trial notification. When a clinical trial opens, every oncologist treating that type of cancer should be systematically and automatically notified. nationwide. This shouldn't be done through journal articles that are 6 months old, but this should be done immediately so that oncologists have access to the newest information out there. We have the technology to do this. Hospitals have electronic health records, trial databases exist. We have to just connect them. Some cancer centers are actually piloting this. When a new cancer trial opens at Dana-Farber, every lung cancer doctor in their network gets an alert. And the result of this is fantastic. We saw that trial enrollment went up 40%. Patients got access to faster and better trials. But we need this nationwide. Today, it's an optional and fragmented process that should be mandatory and universal. And the number 2 lesson, right now, clinicaltrials.gov requires a medical degree to understand it. The language is technical, the search is clunky, and there's no personalization. Patients should have a much better interface that's based on their diagnosis, and that gives you trials that you qualify for in a clear and articulate manner. The FDA and the NIH have talked about modernizing clinicaltrials.gov for years, but it's now actually time to do that. And the final thing is to redefine the standards of care. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In the current system, clinical trials are often treated as the last resort. They try everything else first, and if nothing works, then maybe they look at trials. But this is backwards. For cancers, especially the rare ones or ones with poor prognosis, clinical trials are often one of the best treatment availables, not the last option. We need a shift in culture in oncology. Clinical trials should be treated as the initial option or the initial conversation, not the we run out of options conversation. But some pioneering oncologists already do this. They say there are 3 paths forward. 2 of them are FDA-approved treatments, and the last one's a clinical trial. Let's discuss all of them. And that should be the standard practice. So what can you do? If you're a patient and you know somebody with cancer, you can go to clinicaltrials.gov and you can find for a trial. Or you can use our platform, ones like NxtCure, that can make the search a lot easier for you. We built it specifically for patients so they don't have to navigate ones like clinicaltrials.gov. But if you're a healthcare provider, make clinical trials part of your standard treatment option discussion. Not the last result, but a standard option. It takes 2 minutes to search and it can add years to somebody's life. And for everyone, understand that clinical trials aren't scary experiments. They're often putting the cutting edge cancer treatments or new treatments are there on the pathway to get FDA approval. It's how we turn today's experiments into tomorrow's standard care options. Sarah sent me a message last month. She said, I don't know how I was lucky enough to find the trial, but I think about all the people who did it. I think about them too. Right now, somebody's sitting in an oncologist's office with no other options left. And somewhere, maybe in that same hospital, there's a trial that could save their life. Thank you.